Welcome everyone to the Mental Health Advocacy Series. The focus of this series is mental health in the Black community. With this series, it's our desire to share information with the community on topics such as understanding what mental health is, myths and stigmas about mental health, generational trauma, therapy and other resources, barriers to help, and much more. Today, we will cover an overview of mental health and what it looks like in the Black community. I'm Olivia Wilson, and I serve as the Trauma-Informed Parent Engagement Coordinator with Greater Richmond SCAN, and I'll be serving as the moderator for today's conversation. I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Tamika Daniel, who's the Behavioral Health Community Organizer for Greater Richmond SCAN. Tamika is an East End community resident and a mother of 4 beautiful children. She began advocating for the needs of her son who has autism, which led to her advocating on a larger scale in her 10 years of not being employed. She began as SCAN's Behavioral Health Community Organizer in August 2019 through a partnership with Richmond Memorial Health Foundation. Utilizing her expertise and her experience, she brings SCAN's work in adverse childhood experiences, trauma, and resilience to the community through trainings and forums. She also assists in building resilience and facilitating healing through empowerment and connection through a trauma-informed and an equity lens. Additionally, she brings her voice and advocacy to meetings and tables throughout the entire community. So I'm so happy to have Tamika with us today. I also have the pleasure of introducing our special guest, Ms. Shamia Ford, who I also can call friend. So I'm so glad to have Shamia here. Shamia is a licensed clinical social worker who has provided mental health services since 2010. She is an alumna of Norfolk State University and Virginia Commonwealth University, where she received a bachelor's and master's degree in social work. Shamia has a passion for helping individuals who have experienced trauma, learn acceptance and understanding during their journey to self-healing while navigating through life stressors. She has diverse experience working with adolescents, families, and adults in a variety of different settings. Shamia loves assisting others to understand mental health and how it impacts their lives, where and how to seek help. She is proud to be a social worker, and I must say happy Social Work Month to you, Shamia, and to all the social workers out there. So today, Shamia, Tamika, and myself will be talking about what mental health is and what it looks like in the Black community. So let's jump right in. So I think it'll probably be very fitting and appropriate to really kind of start off with mental health, describing it what it is, right? So we hear mental health all the time, but is there some type of definition or description that can help us kind of just set the foundation with understanding what mental health is? And I'm going to open it up to either you, Shamia, or Tamika, who wants to jump in.
Sure. Tamika, is it okay if I go? All right, great. So your mental health is really, it's like the well-being of our emotional, your psychological, which is your mind, and the social part of your life, right? So it's really about what's important to keep these things in check. So like physical health, when somebody takes care of their physical health, they exercise, they might diet, they might eat a little healthier, they might get on different types of medications, different things like that to kind of manage and take care of your physical body. So with mental health, it's like the same thing, but you're just putting things in place to take care of your mind, to keep your mind healthy. So your mental health is taking care of your mind to help you live your day-to-day life effectively. It's just, making sure that you are taking care of your whole well-being, because, how you think affects your behaviors, it affects your thoughts, it affects your actions. Your mental health affects how someone makes choices, manages stress. It can affect you all around.
That's very helpful, Shamia. And, I think that's helpful because I think oftentimes when the word mental health comes up, I think for a very long time, we oftentimes think of mental health as mental illness or
Right.
mental health challenges or mental health issues, when
Hmm.
we just need to understand just what mental health is. And so what I heard you say is like mental health really is understanding is our well-being. It's
Yes.
it's a it's connected, like just like if we think about physical health, we need to
Hmm.
think about mental health, which is, the connection between our mind, our emotions, and our physical well-being. So that's powerful. You want to add anything to that, Tamika?
Yeah, just to piggyback off what you said, for me, this definition helps me because I was one of those people when I heard the term mental health, I always associated with something negative.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Like I didn't know there was any positive side to mental health, or it was a such thing as it being healthy. Like when you hear the word mental health, where I come from, it's automatically what's wrong with you.
Right.
Mm,
So this
yeah,
definition even helps me.
absolutely. I think that's really good to kind of just kind of set that foundation and clear up what mental health is. And basically, we all have mental health, right? It's
Right.
part of all of our makeup, our being. But as Tamika was saying, that just the word oftentimes carry this negative connotation because it
Hmm.
automatically thinks that you have a mental health issue or a challenge or illness of some sort. And so, like, kind of staying in that vein and leading to our next question, what are some other misconceptions or misunderstandings you have heard or you are aware of about mental health? Like, what are those? What are some other misunderstandings we have about mental health, or even just misconceptions?
Well, in my experience, I've heard that they've told me, well, people would think I'm crazy, if I have mental health issues. I'm weak if I go to therapy,
Mm,
or maybe, well, I could just get over it, or people can just get over it. Very just undermining the issue of how it affects their life because they're not able to recognize, how their life is severely impacted. Or one very, very common one is that, oh, well, mental health problems, they don't affect me. I'm good, I'm okay.
mm,
Because they don't realize they're just functioning on autopilot. And I'm like, no, just pause. It can be affecting you in a different way. Let's kind of talk about things and kind of see how things are impacting you. And another one I would say is that medications can make everything better. That is a common one that I hear, because in actuality, medications, they can improve your functioning, but they definitely can't make things better. So they can increase your functioning. So say if like a person started on medication, they would be down here. And then a medication will kind of increase you up a little bit here. And then if you take therapy, it'll kind of bring you here to kind of like get a balance. So it kind of to give people a visual. So with medication, therapy, and other coping skills that you put in your life will help you balance and be able to function better effectively. Tamika, what about you? Any misconceptions you've heard?
I've heard a lot of people feel like that they're too far gone
mm,
Right.
for any help when that's not the case, or either it's they automatically assume when you say help you mean therapy,
Mm-hmm.
when that's not the case at all. Like different strokes for different folks. So what may work for me may not work for you. Therapy worked for me, but I understand that's not for everyone. So,
Right.
just making sure that's put out there that, you're never too far gone, as long as you still have breath in your body, and that, you don't necessarily have to do therapy, or either that therapy is, sitting on the couch talking to somebody. So
Yeah.
that's like
exactly.
Yeah.
the biggest one. I don't want to go sit and talk to somebody. I don't know this person. So
Right, right, Tamika, and I can definitely agree with that because a lot of the clients that I work with, they say, Miss Shamia, therapy, is a little uncomfortable for me, that's completely understandable. It's definitely understandable because number one, I'm a stranger. You come talk to me about your interpersonal problems and things that you have to a complete total stranger to kind of say, hey, fix me. And I'm like, no, I can't fix you. I'm just here to kind of help you see things in a different light, gain skills. So that's what I really, really like want to imply, that therapy is really about gaining skills. Yes, we're talking about some of the things that you went through. Yes, we're going to process some of those feelings that you've been stuffing down deep inside, but also the main thing, it really is to learn different skills to help you manage. So when you go through different things in your life, you will have a different type of skill set to help you manage a lot of different stressors, right? Because we know stressors, they're not going to go away. They're going to come in different shapes of forms. It might be losing a job, it might be death in a family, it could just be overall life experiences that stress people out, so we just got to figure out what skills that we can use to definitely help people. And I'm glad you actually brought that up, because a lot of people think that therapy is just sitting on the couch talking, people, because when we see it on TV, that's what they're doing, right? They got their feet up, relaxed, their head is back like this. But therapy is so, so creative. And that's why I just love, the field that I do, because we can use music in therapy, it's art therapy, it's creative and expression therapy. It's really just how the therapist can be creative in reaching that client to make their therapeutic experience personalized. So I definitely encourage, I know this is off topic a little bit, but therapy, like shopping for a therapist, is really like shopping for anything else, right? It's like, if you go to the store and buy some clothes and they're too small and it's not a good fit, you're not going to buy it, right? So it's the same thing as, shopping for a therapist. You are not going to talk with someone that you personally, feel like that it's not a good fit.
Absolutely. Look, and I know we can probably stay on that for a long time, because I even want to follow up with it. But one thing that I do want to kind of just piggyback or circle back around to is how important it was to kind of start with identifying what mental health is and acknowledging, number one, mental health is something that we all have, that's part of our makeup. It is part of our overall being, and how it's connected to our overall well-being, and how, because many of us may not have that clear understanding of what mental health is. There's always been these negative connotations attached to it, these misunderstandings, these misconceptions. And also, you mentioned to me, Shamia, about how, when we talk about some of those misconceptions, even when it comes to therapy, and like what help looks like, or feeling like there is no help or you're too far gone. I think all of that is so helpful when we talk about that there's a healthy mental health state, and then you have your more unhealthier mental health state, because I try not to use good and bad or good and poor, but if I can, we realize that oftentimes when we talk about mental health, it is usually in talking about the unhealthy aspects of it. Again, always talking about mental health illness, issues, challenges, whatever terminology we want to use. But I've realized we don't focus enough about like the healthy aspect of mental health, and like what that looks like. What does it take to maintain it, or how do we even return to it if we have strayed away from it? So I guess my next question that I wanted to follow up, especially when you were talking about those skills, Shamia, like skills to learn, what does a healthy mental health state look like compared to or versus a poor or unhealthy mental health state? Hope that question makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. And Tamika, you actually kind of touched on this, because it can definitely look different for everyone. What's healthy mental health for someone else might not be healthy mental health for the next person. So it's really just learning how to be able to manage your life struggles in a healthy and an appropriate way. So finding things that are effective for you to help manage daily stressors, your life to life issues that you might be going through. So for some people, it could be doing self-care, and that's a lot. Like self-care is a term that's thrown out a lot, but you have to make sure your self-care is healthy, right? Because self-care is like, I like to shop, right? So if I go shopping for my self-care, but I spend up all my money and I can't pay my bills, then is that really self-care? So you just have to be selective when it comes to finding out, what your self-care is, and it's going to sustain you to being healthy and effective with making decisions. So also too, it can mean, finding different skills, connecting to other people, recognizing what's causing you to put you in a mood, to feel down or to feel happy, or just really overall being in tune with yourself to kind of figure out what's going on with you, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I love that. Tamika, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I always like to use myself and my personal experiences to kind of like let people see. And for me, the difference between healthy and unhealthy mental health for me was when I had unhealthy mental health, it looked like me not caring for my children the way I knew I should have, me being closed off. I was stressed, I was depressed. I felt like I was in a rabbit hole and I could not find my way out. I didn't see a purpose for my life. I just knew I was a mother. That was
Mhm.
it. Me and who I was as an individual was completely lost. And when I started to gain more knowledge, like you say, you first have to understand what mental health is. Once I
Mhm.
understood what it was, for me, healthy mental health looked at like me in therapy. That worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now healthy mental health for me looks like, having those coping skills, realizing what my boundaries are, realizing when I need to take time off or when
Mm-hmm.
things are too much for me, realizing that no is a complete sentence and I don't owe anybody an explanation
Mm-hmm.
for that. It means, things for me like reading, writing, listening to music, things of that nature. So, each individual's healthy and unhealthy will look different, but that's what it looked like for me.
Right. And Tamika, I think the important thing is that you were able to realize when something wasn't right. Right. Like that is a very, very, very first step in realizing that something is wrong. And those examples that you gave, is great at somebody recognizing, something isn't quite right here. So that is great that you're able now to be able to transition into a phase where you're able to put different skills in place to kind of help maintain, to prevent you from, getting back down to a place where you were before. And when you kept saying realize, 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 that to me is like, yes, 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 helping somebody realize and understanding um, that, yep, something ain't going right here. I need to do something about it.
Absolutely. And I appreciate what you both said, because even Shamia, when you mentioned how self-care, is a term that's thrown out. And like I say, I feel like in some ways it's been watered down, knowing how important that term is, how important the practice of it is. And it's being used, and I'm loving that everyone is becoming more aware of it. But then at the same time, I think it's being in some case watered down because it's trending, right? And I love how both you and Tamika kind of talked about self-care practices and ways to care for yourself in this intrinsic way. Like, how do you do that internally? Like understanding like your purpose and how you were feeling, and understanding your emotions and the state of the mood that you're in, right? And so that practice of awareness and connecting and being in tune, and then also still incorporating those external or extrinsic practices of things that you can do to help, those coping skills. I really appreciate you all being able to kind of highlight and identify what some of those things look like, what taking care of yourself look like. It's not just, like you said, getting your nails done. That's beautiful. It's not just the massages. It's not just the hot, the bath soaks. Those are great, but it's also the checking in, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
that attunement, that awareness. It's also understanding, how am I feeling as a person? What are my roles? Am I just mother? Who am I? Right?
Mm-hmm.
All of those things. So I really appreciate the way you all are like giving those real life examples and explanations, and again relating it all back to mental health. Like, how do we understand what a healthy mental health state could look like for us individually, and then being able to recognize when we feel like we're moving out of that unhealthy state. And so this is such a great conversation that I really appreciate and I'm so glad that we're having. As we stated, like in our introduction, that we wanted to make sure that we're focusing. We know that each of us, all humans, right, we have mental health, but we also wanted to make sure that we were that we were taking an intentional focus on the Black community. And so the things that we've been talking about so far, I want to kind of take that and see what is mental health. Ask us, what is mental health looking like today, right now, in the Black community? And I left that as an open question to allow you all to respond in any way that feels that you connect with that statement. What is mental health looking like today in the Black community?
I think that is more accepted now, versus how it was. I think is getting to a place where it is more accepted and people are more open, because the conversation, with the power of social media and the different things that are going on in the world today, it's a big push to take care of yourself, right? Especially with the pandemic, within the last couple of years and the different social justice issues, that's been going on in the community. I think it's definitely being more aware of what mental health is, and understanding kind of what we talked about earlier, understanding what mental health is, and actually when a person needs to seek help and how to seek help. I definitely think that the stigmas that the Black community have around mental health are getting broken down just a tad bit to help open the doors up a little bit.
Awesome. Tamika, what do you think? What is mental health looking like in the Black community from your lens?
For me, it's all about those platforms. I feel like as Shamir stated, the platforms that we've been given access to has kind of, gave us the access to kind of bring it to like that tipping point where it's okay to be talked about. You have a long ways to go, but it's almost like it's okay. And for some reason, it brings me to a lot of things that happen to us. And it's like, for me, when I was pregnant, I was diagnosed with something called hyperemesis or HG, and it's the extreme form of morning sickness. Nobody thought it was serious. You're pregnant. This is what happens. You're going to be tired. I was called lazy. I was called everything in the book because they didn't understand it. But lo and behold, when Kate, the Duchess, she ended up being diagnosed with it. It was like, oh, now it's the thing.
Mm.
So it kind of brings me to that. It seems like with a lot of things in our community, when some of us go through it, it's like, oh no, this is normal. We done been through worse. It's you keep it moving, but it's like when somebody else, says something about it, it almost becomes acceptable. And I've been thankful for all of the people who have access to these platforms to let our people know that, hey, you know, this not okay, even though this is what has been taught to us for years and years and years and years. This is not acceptable, and I don't even want to get started on the mental health in Black men because that's I did a whole nother conversation on that. But when I think about what it looks like in the Black community, I feel like I'm happy that the conversations are starting, but it's like we still have a long way to go, and I just want to educate, and that's why I do what I do with these series and conversations, because I want us to be healthy mentally. I want each and every one of us to be healthy, whatever that looks like for each individual. I just really want that for us.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that too. And I know we have so many conversations coming up in this mental health advocacy series, but you touched on something, Tamika, where you were saying that, so many things for so long had been considered normal, right? Or, that's just how it is, suck it up, or you'll get over it, it could be worse. All these things that can minimize or make us feel isolated or make us feel, all of these unpleasant feelings about our situation. And then when, again, it happens to someone else from a different class, from a different ethnic background, from a different socioeconomic status, whatever it is, from a different whatever, all of a sudden develop a different awareness or a different response to it. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, because that makes me think just about like our generational traumas. And I know we have a whole conversation coming up on that, but that's where my mind went when you brought that up. And so I'm glad that this is the kickoff conversation with just developing like this very basic foundational understanding of what mental health is, because I think Shamia, and I appreciate you because you're really helping us set the tone and the foundation for all of these conversations that are going to be coming up after this one. And so I really appreciate it. One thing I do want to kind of take us back to is talking about like that healthy aspect of mental health, right? So we know that there's the unhealthy side to mental health. We know that we can have mental health challenges, or we might want to call them issues. We know that there's also such a thing that's called mental health illness, which is another layer, right? They're not necessarily all interchangeable. And I'm happy for anyone to speak on, Shami, if you want to speak on that too. But the real question that I wanted to ask was, could we maybe highlight a couple of things that really could speak to some of the things that could contribute to maintaining that good mental health? Like, what are some specific things that the average person could do that could help support that healthy mental state? And then maybe some things that that generally can impact our mental health.
Okay. So I would say that the first thing, that we talked about that is self-awareness, definitely being self-aware, when being able to recognize when something is off so you can put things in place. Also to maybe I would say connecting with others, kind of just having different conversations with people to kind of see where you can help someone else, and they can also help you. Maybe it's going to look different for each person. Exercising is a good one. Eating healthy, is a good one. Just being able to be open to being uncomfortable, because when you put things in place to change certain patterns, you've been living your life a certain way, or coping negatively, handling stress in a not so good way, right? And when you want to put things in place to kind of help manage it better, it's going to be uncomfortable. So I always like to say, be comfortable being uncomfortable, especially when you putting different things in place, because it's not going to be easy, just putting different things in practice. However, with consistency and commitment, and a little bit of persistence, it can be done. Did that answer your question? I felt like I might not have.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because like you said, you and Tamika both said that, like, that healthy mental health state can look different for, for people individually. But I think what you offered in a general sense, I think was really helpful. Just some things that people could just be kind of thinking about I'm thinking about our viewers who are going to be, watching us. Just what are some general things that typically could contribute or promote that good, healthy promote, that good mental health or that healthy mental state. And then the second part to that question was, what are some, again, general things that could impact our mental health? And again, I know everyone's experience is different. And so there could be different things that could impact each and every one of us differently.
Yes, so definitely like life experiences, it could be trauma for one person, which could mean moving several times, it could be a bunch of different things like losing your home, homelessness, witnessing violence, the trauma list is extensive. It can also be biological, by some different type of biological factors can impact your mental health. Just some general things to help manage really is just maybe connecting with other people, maybe I would definitely say self-awareness and just kind of sitting down and analyzing what is being negatively impacted in your life, right? Like, how can you sit down and say, I noticed something is here isn't really working right for me. What can I do differently? So just kind of analyzing where you can have some improvements, within yourself, maybe. And I would definitely just say commitment, just committing to yourself to wanting to be healthier, just like when you would commit to yourself, to your physical health, you want to lose weight or eat more healthier, you make a commitment to just wanting to overall take care of yourself. I think those are some big areas.
Absolutely. Tamika, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so for me, personally, things that contributed to mine were, being a victim of domestic violence, being a single mom, becoming a mom at an early age,
Hmm.
then having my son to go through something that I had no clue about, with him being diagnosed with autism when I was 22. And then that self-awareness that Shamir was talking about, me eventually getting to a point where I had to realize and accept that something was not right
Mm,
within myself.
Hmm.
Something wasn't right. I had low self-esteem. My confidence level was shot. I didn't feel worthy of nothing. I felt like a disappointment to my family. Um, but then something triggered in me, and it was like, do you want to continue to be like this? Or do you want more for yourself and your children? And that looked like me becoming uncomfortable because that was the hardest part of therapy for me,
Hmm.
was actually taking accountability for what I contributed to what was going on in my life. And when I said that was so hard for me, it was many cries, many tears, a lot, and then just being able and being taught to advocate for myself,
Hmm.
having people empower me, because me going into a doctor's office and telling them that, hey, you answer the questions, they want to give you medication. And
Hmm.
I don't knock medication because there are truly people out here who do benefit from medication, but I didn't want to take that away from people who are actually experiencing mental illness. I
Hmm.
was not experiencing a mental illness. I was simply experiencing, I don't have coping skills to deal with everyday life.
Hmm.
I don't know what to do. And by me not knowing what to do, yeah, that could have led me way down there where I could have eventually ended up needing medicine. But
Hmm.
me advocating for myself and knowing and telling them, like, look, I don't need medication. I just need some help. I need somebody to talk to. I need some
Hmm.
coping skills, So for me, that's what it looked like.
absolutely. Like, I really appreciate one thing I love about you, Tamika. I love how transparent you are and how you really use your personal experiences to empower all of us every single time that we come and do these conversations. So I really appreciate it. But you hit on something that I feel like is kind of ringing so loud throughout this
Hmm.
conversation is the power of social connections, the
Yeah.
right connections. Shamia, you said it like 5 times already, and you just said it again, Tamika. Like, that's really important. So I want you all to speak to two more things before we get ready to close. Um, Shamia, can you do us a favor? And I'm throwing this on you, um, kind of spare the moment. Can you just simply clarify or give us a explanation of the difference between, again, like experiencing just a mental health challenge, right,
Hmm.
versus mental health issue? I mean, mental illness. Can you just distinguish those for us real quick so that we all have a clear understanding of that as well?
Sure. To begin, you actually touched on this too, right? But because when you talked about what you were going through in life and you needed a set of coping skills, so that would definitely be a mental health challenge. It's like a situation, or something that a person would go through that can affect your mental. So, which means that you struggle daily in life, it's affecting your sleep, it's affecting maybe decisions, your relationships, it's just affecting you all around parenting, it can affect you kind of everywhere, right? So that is will be a mental health challenge. Okay. So then with the mental health illness, if the things that you're going through persist a little bit longer. So maybe if you go through something for like 2 weeks, okay, it's kind of still a mental health challenge, but maybe if the longer that it persists and linger around. So mental health illnesses like bipolar disorder, when you get a specific diagnosis, it could be a mood disorder, it could be a behavioral disorder. So like depression, it could be anxiety, it could be PTSD, it can be, I know we touched on bipolar disorder, it could be schizophrenia. It's so many different levels to mental illness. Than just a mental health challenge, if that makes sense to give you some clarity.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that helps um, a lot of people, especially when we are also trying to clear up just the definition of what mental health is. I think that helps clear up or can kind of combat some of those misconceptions or those negative connotations that always get attached to just the word itself, mental health, and what that it simply is. And understanding that having a mental health challenge, each and every one of us can experience at any point of our life. Doesn't mean that we have a mental illness, but that, mental illnesses do exist, but that those are some other, like you said, more persistent and kind of occur on um, more severe, significant levels, and they're typically disorders that are diagnosed by a professional.
Right.
Awesome, thank you. That helped me, and I imagine that it's helping out a lot of our viewers here. But as we come to a close, I just love the fact that we really focused on just this really important role of social connections. And I just wanted to kind of just open that back up real quick just to see if anyone wanted to maybe just give any final words about just that important role of why we talk about social connections so much in the process in terms of like maintaining our mental health, like keeping a healthy mental state, and how even when we are experiencing challenges with our mental health, how those social connections, whether it's a friend, whether it's a mentor, a pastoral counselor, a therapist, like why those social connections are so important.
Tamika, you want to start for this one?
Yeah, so for me, even with my therapy, those social connections were still very important to me because I was on a calendar for my therapist. But life happens every day.
Right.
So for me, I can remember my mentor, I'm not gonna say her name because she don't like me put her on the spot, but I I was going through something one day and she was at work and I had called her and she was just like, well, I have to go pick up some food for a meeting, but you can ride with me and tell me what's going on. That right there, that made me feel loved. Even in the midst of me going through what I was going through, it made me feel loved. She was taking out time for me being able to release that frustration that I was dealing with at that moment. It helped me in more ways than people could ever imagine, as opposed to me not having nobody to talk to in that moment and maybe having to wait until therapy
Mm-hmm.
and it's festering and I have to engage with my children. I could have possibly took that out on my children. So I think just having those people in place, like even outside of therapy, or even if you choose that therapy is not for you, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they're very important and they can make all of the difference in the world because it also helps to make you feel that you're not alone.
Yes, yes. And Tamika, and that's exactly why I wanted you to start with the answer, because you gave it great. It's that daily connection that somebody needs when they're going through something, to help get them through. And that is definitely the importance of having a natural support, being just connected to people on a multiple different levels, just creating that support system.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. And again, I too love just exactly what you said, like what those social connections do, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
on a daily basis. And I just appreciate you both so much for just everything that you have offered to this conversation today. Some key takeaways some takeaways that I took from this conversation is like I just love how we were able to really just give this more clearer overview of what mental health is and to help clear up some of the misconceptions and misunderstandings around it. You know, we all have mental health. It is part of our overall well-being, and we take care of it in different ways through different skills and strategies, just like we would with our physical health, and they are absolutely connected, as you said, Shamia. I loved how we talked about the way mental health is being talked about in the Black community and what it's looking like, how it's becoming more accepting. We have long ways to go in terms of really, you know, destigmatizing a lot of things and really understanding what mental health looks like, even, you know, for Black and Brown communities specifically. And I just love some of the real examples that you all offered in terms of us, what that looks like to maintain a healthy mental health state, and what are some, you know, factors that could impact our mental health. I love how we also just, you know, kind of put that difference there. Help to me, you helped us understand what's the difference between a mental health illness versus just experiencing mental health challenges. Again, that each and every one of us can experience, and then that we highlighted the really important role of having social connections and how that's going to always continue to be a protective factor, right? And us being able to get better when we're experiencing mental health challenges, and how that also plays a role with us maintaining a healthy mental state. And so I appreciate you so much. Tamika, I'm going to turn the rest of this conversation over to you to close us out.
Yeah, and I just wanted to leave the audience with something, and it's just, I know for a lot of us in our communities, we oftentimes feel like we have to be supermen or superwomen, and that, you know, we're supposed to do things by ourselves. But that was when I was at my lowest, when I was trying to do it all on my own. And the statement, it takes a village, I really truly believe in that, because I'm at the happiest I've ever been in my life, in my personal life, my professional life, as a mother, as a friend, as a sibling, as every role I play in my life, I'm at my happiest. And I contribute that to my village. I love them. They're irreplaceable. I couldn't imagine being in the space that I'm in without them. I was one of them people who didn't trust people, because that's another thing that, you know, hinders us sometimes. We lack trust, but once I opened my heart up, and, you know, I had some bad experiences, you know, no lie about that, but, you know, I'm glad I opened my heart up, because I have whole communities, centers, I have friends for life, and people I never thought I would have been friends with. So, um, yeah, it's okay to not go through this thing called life by yourself and trying to do it all. And we've come to the end of our time. And again, I want to thank you, Shamir, for agreeing to join us. Thank you to my lovely colleague, Olivia. She helps a lot more than she lets on with the series. So thank you. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to this conversation. We hope that you found this conversation informative and encouraging. And we will be back next week for the next conversation in the Mental Health Advocacy Series. Take care, and we look forward to staying connected with you.